Good evening. This is the Town Hall Cell Committee of Adjustment virtual meeting for Wednesday, July the 21st, 2021. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to take roll call of our members and administrative staff. When I mention your name, please verbally identify that you're present. So first tonight, James Boscario.
Present.
Vince Marcotte.
Here.
Valentina Bernoni.
Here.
Ryan Tufts, Planning Technician, Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment.
Here.
Alan Burgess, Supervisor of Planning and Development.
Here.
And I'm your chairperson. My name is John Lee. All applications are subject to a 20-day appeal period. Any person desiring to appeal a decision of this Committee of Adjustment may, upon request in writing to the Secretary, receive a copy of the decision to be used for an appeal. The fee for filing an appeal can be obtained from the Secretary Treasurer. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest tonight? None. Noted. Could I have an adoption of the minutes from our last meeting, May 19th, 2021? Is there a motion?
Move adoption.
Jim and Valentina? And that carries. All in favor? That carries. Mr. Tufts, are there any requests for deferral or withdrawal of any application tonight?
Unreceived.
Okay. First application for tonight is B0721, file 112, Alan Belmore, and the application for consent to create one new lot. Mr. Tufts is going to make a presentation on the severance application at this time.
I just need to be able to share my screen. Good now.
You're good now.
Thank you. So we have consent to create one new lot on Ellsworth. Subject land is designated residential in the town's official plan and zoned residential 1. This is the site plan that was provided to us from the applicant that shows the proposed severance with the severed land in the middle and the retained on each side. The creation of one infill lot utilizes existing services and was previously approved by the Committee of Adjustment in 2017. However, the owner at that time did not fulfill the conditions and the file had since lapsed. We recommend approval based on the following conditions: that they provide a survey, that they enter into an amending site plan agreement with the town, and that the above is fulfilled by July 21st, 2022.
Thanks, Mr. Tufts. I see Mr. Bartlett is here. Mr. Bartlett, you may speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself and provide a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm that you've read and understood the staff report.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Bartlett, and obviously on behalf of Alan Belmore, I'm severing this land. Actually, and as well as of today, I will be taking ownership of the property. Myself and Evan Jacobs as well. So we will now own 145 and 155 Ellsworth, the two abutting properties on either side of the suggested lot.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Bartlett? Seeing none. Committee members, any questions for administration? Again, seeing none. Having heard any comments, concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Vince?
So moved.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Valentina?
Yeah.
All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Mr. Bartlett.
Thank you very much.
Next application, there's two file numbers. We will do the discussion, but we will do the motion separately on each application. Application B06 and 0821, file number 4111 and 4113, owner 2708617 Ontario Limited. The application for consent to create one new lot and easements for access and services. Mr. Tufts is going to make a presentation on the severance application.
So like John said, we have consent to create one new lot and consent to create easements for services and access. This site plan just shows the yellow, which would be the areas that are subject to the proposed easements, and the purple would be the proposed and the existing buildings. These three would be the proposed, these are the buildings, those are the garage, and then these three are the existing buildings. The subject land is designated LaSalle Town Center in the official plan. And they've been rezoned in principle to a site-specific town center commercial zone. That was approved by council at the June 22nd meeting. The creation of one infill lot efficiently utilizes existing services and meets both objectives of the upper and lower tier official plans, and it exceeds the requirements of the zoning bylaw. We recommend approval based on the following. So for B06, the survey is noted that they enter into an amending severance and site plan control agreement with the town, that the site-specific rezoning that was approved in principle is adopted in full force, and that the above is approved by July 21st, 2022. And for B08, conditions that we are recommending would be that survey is provided, that the applicant provides a copy of the easements, that they satisfy all the conditions of the other consent file, and that the above is fulfilled by July 21st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Tufts. Mr. Fruzio, pardon me if I mispronounced your name. You may speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself and provide a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm that you've read and understood the staff report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Harry Frusios. I'm with Zelenka Priamo Limited. We're the planning consultants for the current landowners and the future landowner of the severed lands. I do have a brief presentation. Some of the material is already presented by Mr. Tufts, but I'll just go over it briefly just to give you a little bit more detail. So if I can share my screen, then we can just quickly go through the presentation and give you some more information. Okay, can everyone see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So as was already mentioned, this is an application for consent for the lands with address 5881 Malden Road, 1730 and 1740 Sprucewood Avenue in LaSalle. The subject lands are highlighted in red. As you can see, they're at the intersection of Malden Road and Sprucewood Avenue. The current property has a shopping center on it consisting of 3 commercial buildings on it. We'll call that sort of the phase 1 and phase 2 of the development. There are commercial uses surrounding this property to the north, to the east, and to the south. Residential uses to the west, and we have institutional uses in the area within walking distance of the property. This is just a little bit more blow up of the subject lands. As I mentioned, this property has frontage along Malden Road and Sprucewood Avenue. There are 3 standalone buildings containing a mix of retail, office, and service commercial uses representing phase 1 and phase 2. And the lands that are currently subject to this application are phase 3, and they are currently vacant. And you can see just some street views of phase 1 and phase 2, and then these are the vacant lands that are subject of the consent. The subject lands have a total area of just over 2 hectares or 5 acres. This is the consent sketch that was filed with the application. The lands highlighted in blue are the ones to be retained, which will also retain the existing commercial development. And then the lands highlighted in red are the lands to be severed, the phase 3 lands, and these are proposed for a future mixed-use development. And as Ryan said, they were just recently rezoned in principle to allow the proposed use. Together with the consent, we're seeking easements for servicing and access to allow both properties to function as a single entity for those purposes, and it will be done through a reciprocal operating agreement. And this is just the site plan for the existing developed lands, which would be the retained lands. You can see the 3 buildings on the property. And then this just shows sort of the outline of the future phase 3 lands, the development. This is the site plan that was presented to council as part of a rezoning application. We also are in for site plan approval currently for the proposed development. It is for 2 5-story buildings. One is a mixed-use building fronting onto Sprucewood Avenue, which would have ground floor commercial uses and 32 residential units on the upper stories, and then a standalone apartment building to the north, which would contain 38 residential units. The proposed density is 75 units per hectare, and a total of 133 parking spaces are proposed for this portion of the development, phase 3. And this is just a rendering of the buildings basically standing on the phase 1 and 2 lands facing west. And you can see the mixed-use building to the left, and this is the standalone apartment building towards the middle. The easements that are requested again are for access to allow for the primary access to the severed lands to also be used by the retained lands, and vice versa, with these accesses also being allowed for use on the phase 3 lands. And the servicing is primarily to acknowledge that there's overland storm flow that will be crossing both properties, and that easement will be reflected and again in terms of a reciprocal operating agreement between both property owners. And Ryan already took you through this, the official plan. The subject lands were in the LaSalle urban area, identified as the LaSalle town center, where this is the focus of growth in the community for a wide range of uses to create complete communities and to also encourage higher density forms of residential and other uses. LaSalle official plan designates these lands as LaSalle Town Center. Again, it's the focal point for major retail and other associated institutional and commercial development, as well as higher density residential uses, which are permitted as standalone and within mixed use buildings. And this is the zoning of the subject lands. As was noted, the subject lands were zoned C410 until 1 month ago, when the phase 3 lands were rezoned in principle to allow for the proposed development that I showed you on the previous site plan. And what we've done in the zoning is we've added a standalone apartment building as a permitted use, in addition to the uses already permitted under the previous C410 zone. The maximum density of 75 units per hectare has been approved, as well as the maximum height of 18.9 meters or 5 stories for the proposed buildings. I won't go into detail. I've gone through in my analysis and filing the application. I've looked at the provincial policy statement, and in my opinion, the proposed consent satisfies the relevant policies of the provincial policy statement in terms of providing efficient development and land use patterns, making efficient use of existing infrastructure, and promoting a wide range and mix of land uses to support intensification and redevelopment. And finally, I've also reviewed the LaSalle official plan, specifically section 7.83, which refers to consent applications. And in my submission, I have, my opinion is that this consent satisfies the criteria for consent applications in LaSalle. I have reviewed the staff report, and I concur with the recommendations and agree with the conditions. And I'm just here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferruzio. That was quite detailed. Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Ferruzio? No. Committee members, do you have any questions of administration? Vince?
Yeah, just quickly, I as you know, we have a 1-year term limit on this and we pass it this evening. And I'm just wondering, I know it's been rezoned. There's an appeal period to that. If it's appealed and if it goes beyond a year, what should we be doing? Because we're passing this, but this is going to be on the condition of the new rezoning, correct?
That's correct.
And that could be appealed?
That's correct.
And if it's appealed, we may be outside the 1-year term we usually give for this.
And it is, and to your question, the application grants only we have a 1-year condition that we can permit. If there was an appeal and if it took more than a year to get through the process, then the applicant would have to reapply. They're aware of that risk and we're willing to take that, the opportunity to move this process along in a concurrent basis, hoping that there would not be an appeal. And also, if there were an appeal on the application for the rezoning, it was expected there would also be an appeal on the consent at the same time. Therefore, both those matters would go before the board at the same time. So really going in a concurrent basis, it just makes more sense to be able to take these along rather than potentially appearing before the Ontario Municipal Board twice. So.
Okay, so as long as they know that I assume we're going to, well, if we approve it this evening, there is still that is hanging out there. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is Mr.
Any
LaFave,
other questions?
yes, is Mr. LaFave part of the applicant?
Yes, he is. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, he is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Having heard any comments, concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision? I'm going to do the motion separately. The first one is for file 1111. That's for consenting to create a new lot. Do we have a motion? Vince? Second? Val? All in favor? And that carries. The second is 4113, and that is for the easements and access services. And do we have a motion on that one?
Who
Jim? And Val?
Yes.
All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Mr. Fruzio.
Thank you very much, members of the committee. Thank you.
Next meeting is Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Vince? Second? Jim? And that carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye. Yeah.